Hi everybody, this is Colleen from Island Farm Life, and it is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which means it is afternoon chore time. Catching the chickens takes a lot of patience and then some real good quick speed. Chickens are faster than humans, so we just have to outsmart them. Usually when we corner them slowly, then grab them by their tail, we have the most success. Once you have a hold of them, put your hands over both of their wings and they'll settle right down. It's always the last one that seems to be the very hardest. And once we've caught them all and moved the chickshaw to the orchard area, we'll leave them in there overnight. They normally roost in about an hour or so from now anyway, so keeping them in there from now to overnight, first thing in the morning about 7-8 o'clock, will acclimate them to their new home, and then they will remember it as their new place.
Good morning everybody, this is Joel with Island Farm Life, and this morning we're going to be putting out some electric poultry netting. This small area here, we're going to put a roll of fence up that's about 84 feet that we're going to then put our mini chicken tractor, the chickshaw, in this area and let the chickens go to town. 84 feet is not a large amount of fencing, but as you remember, we have 6-7 chickens, 6 hens and a rooster, so we do not have a whole lot that we actually need to contain. They don't need a whole lot of area at any given time to be working on. The 84-foot roll will give me a square, roughly a square, about 20 feet on a side. The chickshaw is 4x4. That means get about 5 in each direction, 5 long, 5 wide. We can move that 25 times in just this small area. That way we get their droppings spread all throughout this area. We'll be able to rake it in, or better yet, let them rake it in. Then what we'll do is this post right here is going to be our pivot point. This is where I'm going to put the Energizer. As we finish up this area, I'll be able to set up the exact same size over on this side. Then again, a 3rd quadrant or even a 4th quadrant, and I'll never have to move this post, never have to move the Energizer, never have to move my ground post, so that it's slightly more efficient. I should be able to get more than 3 months without ever having to move this main spot where the electricity comes in. Last night when we put the chickens away after they had settled down in their old dog kennel, we went out there and collected them. It sounds probably like a very peaceful little process where you go and you pick them up, they're sleeping, and you carry them along and set them in their new home. No. They got a little bit crazy back there when the chickshaw started rolling that direction. They all got excited, they all started running. So there was a lot of grabbing them by the tail feathers and dragging them along to get them in their new area, tossing them in. But they did settle right back down. They got right on the little roosts that are out there. If we look underneath the chickshaw, there's a whole layer of droppings there. So I'm very encouraged that that's exactly what we want to happen in the new area. Hopefully they can dig up some of these brambles that are here, weeds that are here. There's some nettles starting growing up now that the sun is coming out with spring. I do love this spring weather. If you'll remember 3 weeks ago, this was covered in more than a foot of snow. Wait 10 minutes, I'm sure the weather will change. I do want to make this video worth your while. I want to show you something on as we go, talk to you a little bit about electric fencing. If I save you 10 minutes of searching stuff on the Google. So let me grab the fencing and show you a couple things, and then let's get it unrolled and get it going. So a couple things that you need anytime you're going to be putting up electrical fencing. One, of course, is the fencing. Second, you are going to need an Energizer for the fence. This is an old Energizer that I've used in the past. I may tell you a horrible story of what I've done with this thing. My wife says, no, I'm not going to tell you a horrible story about what happened.
Not today.
Not today. Okay, we've got our fencing, and then what I've got here is our ground post. Basically all these are is just a simple galvanized post that goes into the ground. You can get these things anywhere from about 2 feet long to 10 feet long. I picked this one. It's 3 feet long. It's got a T on the end. The T basically is to make it easier to pull back out when I need to do it. And since this is going to be a fairly temporary location, then what you'll do is you'll be clamping your ground wire from the Energizer onto this, and then the positive goes onto the netting. One of the questions that you're always going to have is how long your ground post should be, whether or not you're getting good conductivity through the ground. There are so many different variables involved in that. The consistency of your ground, the makeup of your ground, whether it's more sandy, whether it's more loamy, whether it's been raining and the dirt is wet. All of that will have an effect. What it will come down to is whether or not it's working. If you get this in the ground and you're not getting any conductivity, it could be your ground. A lot of times, as long as a relatively short run of fence, you should be fine. Where you're going to have the biggest difference is from this point to the farthest point of your fence, where you're going to be less likely to have a good connection, and therefore you're not going to get a good shock to any of the animals that are there. I'm not really terribly concerned about the chickens getting out as I am about neighborhood dogs or anything else nosing around and trying to get in. So as long as they get a good shock on the nose as they're sniffing around, that's usually going to be sufficient enough to scare them away. So let me get this unrolled and get this going. One last thing I wanted to share with you. When I first started going and putting up electric fencing, this threw me off because there's nowhere that it really explains this. You'll see these numbers a lot here. This one here is 1242.3, and they assume that you just know, if you're buying electric fencing, what that means. So I'm going to save you from the Google search to find out what that is. What this means is the first number is it's 12 strands. That's 12 horizontal strands. It's just basically a common fencing thing. If you look at a fence and it's a 3-rail fence, that's 3 horizontal boards going across. This, of course, is a 12 lead fence, and so therefore there will be 12 leads going across. The second number, that's how tall the fence is. It's 42 inches tall. Hopefully 42 inches will be enough to discourage them from jumping and flapping and getting over. If not, we'll have to maybe trim some wings. We'll go from there. And then finally the 3. The 3 is how closely the up and down divisions are. These are 3 inches apart. Perfectly acceptable for chickens, small animals. If you were just using larger animals in this area, you could probably get a much larger opening, 6 inches or whatever, because a sheep or a cow or whatever, a pig, aren't going to try that. But for poultry, 3 inches is fairly common. So we've got a 1242.3. I guess no more delaying it. I got to get actual work done and roll it on out.